Hey, it's B-Rad Celebrity Hairstylist here, your host of the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast. Today we have an exciting guest, Cassandra Bach, who is based in Toronto, Canada. She's a creator and entrepreneur of a chemical-free line of Liberty skincare products. She's the fertility visionary and founder of Wanna Get Knocked Up, who gave birth at the age of 45. Wow, that's incredible, Cassandra, and I just want to say thank you and welcome to today's podcast.
Thanks. So happy to be here. I love it.
Wow, you've got an incredible story. Number one, you're an entrepreneur. Plus, you know what I mean, having a child at 45 must be pretty incredible, which we'll find out later in the podcast. But we'll just start off a little bit by you kind of just telling your story and who you're all about.
Okay. I think we'll talk a little bit more. You said we'll talk more about the fertility later.
Exactly.
So I'll keep some of that for later. So I'll talk more about Liberty skincare right now.
Exactly.
Is that all right?
Yep. Oh, sure. Yeah. And just kind of, some little details of your life that kind of made you or gave you that entrepreneur spirit.
Sure. Well, I was raised by entrepreneurs and like even almost all my aunts and uncles are entrepreneurs. So to be honest, when I started pursuing careers, there wasn't really any other option. But I went to school and I have a biology degree, and then I owned bakeries for a really long time.
Oh.
And and it was really fun. It's bakery sort of cafe type places. And I always was developing recipes and, furthering my product line and whatnot. So I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when I started making my own skincare products for myself, I would just play with the recipes. It's basically, it's all chemistry. That's all it is. It's really quite simple. And so I would play with the recipes and come out with something that worked, something that didn't. I had one product once that failed. It was absolutely gorgeous product, but when you left it in the jar for a while, all of a sudden it would deflate.
Oh, everything just kind of settled right in the bottom. Yeah. And I guess that's the thing with skincare. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of, does this work? It doesn't work. Is it for everyone or is it for a certain skin type? And the same, if you're trying it for yourself first,
that's
you
right.
Get an idea of how it feels, but also what you like as a person. What kind of feel you like, if you like, so I'll let you continue. Yeah.
Yes, of course. That's sort of how I developed some of the products in the first place. But just to step back a bit, both my parents have had cancer, and I worked in the environmental sector. I did go and have a government job for many years in environment, and I really became aware of all of the toxins in our environment. Apparently babies are born with 200 toxins in their bodies the day they're born now. We just can't protect ourselves enough. And so over time, we, as a family, to be honest, we became more and more vigilant about keeping our systems as clean as possible. And cosmetics are a challenge. Getting food that is safe is a challenge. I actually recently had a conversation with, I use beeswax in a few of my products, not a lot of my products, but a few. And I've been looking for organic beeswax, and there are some that are sold organically. But I had a conversation with a woman who raises bees, and she said she doesn't know why anybody's able to say that, because really you can't say it with bees because they travel 75 kilometers and who knows what crops they touch and what pesticides they're exposed to, and then they bring it back and they make honey and they make wax. So it's really tricky to keep these things out of our system. So when I started, I really wanted some clean creams. And when you look at the jars, you can hardly even pronounce most of the things in there. However, in every company's defense, there is an actual naming system where, like, shea butter isn't just shea butter. It has this, really long name that you have to use in the labeling. So you'd actually need to look at that list to actually understand what the heck is in a product. But it's really not all just clean and clear. I mean, petroleum products are out. I actually had a friend who he was off work for 2 years with a chemical sensitivity, and I was with him one day. We were together. We were going out, and he kept getting cramps in his legs. And he's like, it's as if I'm being exposed to a chemical. It was my hair product. It had petroleum in it, and it was sending his legs into cramping. So with all of these experiences over time, I was like, okay, how do we do it? And I realized I have to do more of it myself. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started to make them, and everybody falls in love with them when they start using them. So they're quite wonderful. And then over time, I started offering them to my clients, my fertility clients. Mm-hmm. And it's only recently that I just started putting them out for the rest of the world to enjoy. So it's been really fun, actually.
Yeah, and I guess actually with the people too, they would start to see the difference, because without the chemical base in your product, and two, you know exactly every single ingredient that's in there, as opposed to some that we buy, like you say, they have these long names and most of us can't pronounce. We don't know what it is. Even some people that, because I work in a product industry that's organic, but then people are like, I want to see an ingredient list. But the same, unless you look them up, you don't know, because they are different names. And they're like, well, it's got this and this and this. And sometimes too, there's different products that do different things in a chemical base than they do if they're obviously just their sort of thing. But obviously, like, who wants, a degreaser, or who wants, what's a lot of them they use is I'm trying to think. My brain is going a little blank. But yeah, a lot of the petroleums that they use, a lot of sulfates they use, especially in hair products, a lot of the, even windshield washer, it has another name, propylene glycol. Right. So there's a lot of products that have that in there, even some things that you don't think you would need it, even some foods. It's like, why do you need this in here? The same with the organic, like you said before with the bees, but I talked to an apple farmer and he said the same thing. You can't call an apple organic because the roots go deep into the ground and they're pulling all that from, especially if they have long roots, even if you're not spraying pesticides and stuff in your area, it's still being drawn in from other, and to say like now we're so deficient in a lot of our foods and our energy, and same with skincare. Like a lot of this that we're putting on, everything's going directly, like you just said, your friend with his leg, the same. The stuff we're putting on, up to 65% goes directly right into the bloodstream. So if something like that from a hair product can do that to your leg, imagine and doing it daily. And I think for females, it's worse, because even showering, you have talc, you have body wash, you have shampoo, you have box color, you have like everything that if you're doing that in the shower, that's all running down your body, and probably for yourself too, developing the line. So how did you come with the name Liberty?
Oh, that was, that ended up being kind of the easy part. For me, it was like, okay, how can I get everything out of this? And believe you me, it's not the easiest thing to even find the organic ingredients. And I get it as clean as I possibly can. But for me, it was like freedom from all of these chemicals, and liberty is freedom, and so it's sort of free of chemicals, and just let's keep everything out of it. So that's really that's why Liberty Skincare.
Well, and I think that's what people want. People want that liberation. People want that freedom. People are tired, and people now, I think, are waking up and they're becoming more aware, saying, hey, I don't want this in my stuff, or hey, I'm going to start reading ingredients and find out what they are, or I'm going to go to somebody who makes their own and not this big corporate company who says, use this, it's great for you. And meanwhile, you're putting all this on, and years later you find you may have health issues, sort of thing.
I feel like it all adds up, right? Like if you can keep, if you only have a limited budget and for your grocery list, if you keep, if you just buy organic meat or something, like you just have to choose, and a lot of people are going to make different choices, but you have to choose where you're going to focus. So if it's going to be your skin, my clients can't be putting chemicals on their bodies when they're affecting a, baby that's growing in their belly.
Yes.
So that's the priority for them, at least while they're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just everybody needs to sort of make those choices for themselves, but it's really the more you can do for yourself to keep the chemicals out of your body, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I know some people say, well, buying organic food is more expensive. Buying organic products or skincare products are more expensive. But to me, I think the quality is better. In food, the nutrition quality is better.
Yes.
In skincare, the same. You don't need as much. So if you break it down as far as price points, you're actually spending less in the long term. You may spend a little bit more initially, but then in the long term, that product's going to last you way longer than something that's just mass produced and has a lot of fillers in it, has a lot of water in it, has a lot a detergents in it, has a lot of filler creams, lanolin, or just other kind of stuff that has irritants. At least then people know, and if you're customizing for someone, at least going to you, then it's someone they know they can trust, especially if you're starting with yourself first. Know if you have sensitivity, okay, it's okay for me. Then you expand to the family and you say, okay, well, I have clients, let them have a try and see if it works for them. And that's a great way to test your market and get some testimonials back and get some feedback and case studies, where a lot of them, I think, they either do animal testing or they just put it out on the market and untested, and then they just wait for the people to react enough, and then they'll pull it off, sort of thing. So with your packaging, how did you decide what your packaging would look like? Does it have any?
Yeah, I wanted something more environmentally sustainable. I don't like plastics. They're not good for us at all. We can't get away from them, but limit it. So I have a glass jar.
Perfect.
Now it has a plastic lid, but the lid doesn't actually touch the product.
No.
But I also kind of liked the fact that the glass jar is clear. Now, to be honest, the product does better if you store it in a dark, cool place. But I usually store it in my medicine cabinet, so it's in a dark, cool place, right? As opposed to on the windowsill.
Yeah. Would your products also be okay in the fridge, or would that
absolutely, absolutely,
so it's fine in the fridge as well?
Yeah, and they'll last longer in the fridge.
Yeah.
The thing that I find with having the glass jar, and I've discovered it makes it. You have to be more careful with filling the jars. It looks really nice.
So if you have any kind of gaps or air pockets or anything like that.
So it makes it more of a challenge for me, but I feel like it's also sort of in line with the branding of Liberty Skincare. I'm not hiding anything.
Nope.
There's nothing look, you can see that what the product looks like. There are no colorings added, no chemicals, no additives, no preservatives. The only thing I use for preservative is vitamin E and essential oil. And so it's very clean. So you can see it. I really want to be transparent. And so this way it's like right there in the open. Right?
Yeah, it's a wonderful idea. It also gives people a chance to see how much product they have, how they're doing, how much they're using. For me, I'm so super, super sensitive. So it's nice to have a line where, as I say, like as far as preservatives, I don't think you can ever get away with a product without any type of preservative, because I think too, using natural products, the product would go rancid probably right away. That's why you need an essential oil or a tea tree or whatever your secret combination is that kind of works with your products. I like the idea of the glass jar because to me, first thing I saw was reusable because once that jar is empty, I could come back, perhaps have it refilled, or I can also use that for other things. So it's not like the plastic with the BPA that's leaking into the product, and then you've got this plastic, and then you got to toss it out, and it doesn't really biodegrade that well. But then too, with the glass jar, there's so many other options that you can use for those containers, right? So to me, I'm getting a 2-for-1. That's how I see it. You're not only getting a product, but you're also getting now another. So you're not going to throw that glass jar away, but you can also use it for other things. So with coming from an entrepreneur family, creating a skincare line. So with that, what kind of was the process for you from going from idea to actually having the physical product in your hands?
That's a good question. Well, as I say, I was already making them for myself. And I had family members and some of my coaching clients sort of encouraging me to start packaging them. I think it entailed a bottle of wine and my brother and I laying out some ideas and just going for it. And of course seeing what was available and like on the market for packaging and of course what domains were available and I got Liberty Skincare. So it was a bit of a family affair. Like my brother and I were involved. I think my mother was there. I think we were at my parents'.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we were just brainstorming. And then of course, then I had to bring it home and see if I could put it into play. So,
yeah, which is amazing. And I think that's the thing. You really have to have the passion. You have to, so it's not enough just to have an idea. You really have to have the drive. You really have the passion, but you have to really, I think, have some vision to really see kind of the end result. Right. And two, you are and I think with any product, any coaching, anything that anyone does, I think you always have to be the result yourself. So if you're using it, then that's the best way to show people rather than, oh, well, I'm the creator, but I don't use it myself. At least if you have gone through your own system, you've used it, you know what it's like, you know, and you tweak it accordingly. And the same, you probably listen to feedback too. And some people say, wow, I really love this. Or, you know, if you tweak it a little bit, I would like it better. And you kind of take those into considerations. But the same, you have 14 products in your line now, but you also have a new one. So how do you get the idea for what scents to use?
Well,
or essential oils,
With the scents, it was kind of funny. One of the most recent addition was 3 different chocolate body butters: chocolate, chocolate mint, and chocolate orange. And it was literally, I was trying to go to sleep, lying there, and all of a sudden I was like, I have to have a chocolate. And what I discovered the next morning is chocolate essential oil is not that easy to find.
Oh, okay.
I got this great idea.
Yeah.
And the chocolate for me it's kind of funny. I mean, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm sort of trying to bring more joy into my life so that I'm not so serious and I can be more playful and joyful with her. Yes. And I feel like when I have chocolate body butter on my hands, because I reckon they're all hand and body butters, and when I have it on my hands, all of a sudden I'll just get a smell of chocolate. And when we talk about the scents, I just want to mention that they're really gently scented. Like we're really
it's not a chemical perfume type of scent.
No, and I don't even like to have them super strong, so that I describe it as I'm scenting them for the user, not for everyone around them.
Okay, yes.
Right? So everybody's so scent conscious now and just scent averse, really. So I try to be really mindful of that. So with the chocolate, if I go to put my hands up to my face and I get the sniff of it, it actually will make me smile. It's like, oh, there's that wonderful chocolate smell without having to eat chocolate.
Exactly. So that would be your dieter's line.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of having the chocolate, you can just take it, get a few whiffs. But I think chocolate itself, it's the same because it has a lot of the flavonoids and it has a lot of the antioxidants. It has a lot of I think it's one of those feel-good kind of scents anyway. And when you smell that chocolate, then it's almost like, because I think you can almost trick your brain, because aromatherapy plays a big part with how, like with mood, with things like that, with kind of clearing, and that's what people like. And say if they have that, especially if they're going through a journey or just they need that pick-me-up, what better way than kind of, I guess, or you're having a little bit of stress with the kids, just put the cream on and then just kind of you fan yourself and you can have your little break and stuff like that. I think even too at the office, at work, I don't know if you have a little travel size, but even have something there they can kind of, breathe it in. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe something later you would want to do is just if you found that right chocolate oil, you could have like a little inhaler. where you
That's
just have the
fair.
little, like the stick, you just,
Yeah,
and you're done, or a little, put some
yeah.
beeswax in the chocolate and you're good to go. See, my mind never.
Never stops. It's awesome.
So it keeps going, but
Yeah,
you also speak as well
I
at different
do.
events. So
I
tell
do.
me about an event. So you just did Fearless Women. So you can tell me a little bit more about that event and kind of what your part was in it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So there's an organization called One Woman,
Hmm.
and it's basically set up to empower women, to show that one woman can make a difference.
Hmm.
And they are hosting Fearless Women Summit. Now it's going global.
Oh, wow.
So this past year, it's just been across Canada, and now they're going global. So they're going down into California and a number of the states, and they're going to the UK. They might be going into Europe. I'm not sure, but
Hmm.
they're getting invited to all these places,
Hmm.
and it's really about empowering people to show what you're able to achieve when the stakes look like they're stacked
Hmm.
against you. And so the first one that I went to was in Halifax,
Oh, wow.
and it was supposed to be 200 people,
Hmm.
and it was 650. That was a bit of a surprise.
So standing room only, literally,
It
wall
was
to wall.
huge. And
Yeah.
the energy there was
Hmm.
unbelievable. And that
Yeah.
turned out to be their largest one in
Yeah.
Canada, in Halifax. So it was amazing. And just
Yeah.
different people got up and shared their story, and how they've managed to, sort of turn things around and make a really great life for themselves. And
Hmm.
I was on that stage. Now,
Yeah.
Mpumi Nobiva, have you
Hmm.
heard of her? Mpumi
I'm not sure.
Nobiva,
I'm better visually than I am with,
that's okay. She's
but
one
probably to
of
see her, I would know who she is.
Yeah, she's one of Oprah Winfrey's mentees.
Oh,
And,
okay, yes,
yeah,
yeah.
and she's lovely. So I got to share the stage with her. She's a dynamic speaker.
Hmm.
So it was really amazing to go and share my story with 650
Hmm.
women.
Hmm.
And I spoke at a number of the other ones too, and really explain how I was able to turn my life around and have a baby at 45,
Hmm.
where the odds were stacked against me. So it was really incredible. So, and I speak at other places. I just spoke at the Whole Life show this past weekend.
Hmm.
And then this Friday, I'm speaking I have to look at my notes so I
Oh,
don't tell you
sure.
the wrong thing.
No.
The Feel Good Women's Show, I think it's
Hmm.
called. Yeah, Feel Good Women's Show. And so really amazing. Part of it is just goes to the point that it's so amazing how many events are happening for women to
Hmm.
really find our voice and really sink into our power, kind of thing. So so it's been a wonderful opportunity, and I'm going to be pursuing more.
Hmm.
Um, when we start talking about the fertility a little bit more,
Yes.
um, I feel that my work can support the work of other alternative therapy practitioners like
Hmm.
naturopathic doctors,
Yes.
acupuncturists, whatnot. So I'm starting
Hmm.
to pursue speaking to them as a community. So like at their conferences and whatnot.
Yes.
So that should be amazing
Hmm.
going forward, because I think it's important to do.
Of course, and you certainly need. Well, even my own, as I say, I was the television host of a show called The Wellness of Being,
Okay.
but the same sort of thing. We were looking for more healthy alternatives to what's already out there, and it's amazing what you can find that's out there, because the show did so well. I actually got extended, and the show
Wow.
ran for 3 years, right? So, which you can still find some of the shows online, but that's why I want to continue with what we're doing now. So even though this is a hairstylist empowerment podcast, hairstylist because number one, that's what I do, but also I'm also in the health and wellness. But this podcast is really for anyone, because we're all people first. Our jobs, our titles, our labels are all secondary, and I don't really believe in labels anyway. But we're all people first, and we all need empowerment. Obviously, from a group that was only supposed to be two something to over 600, obviously there's women that need to be empowered. There's people that need to be empowered. And everybody has a story. And that's why with doing podcasts, doing talks, doing speeches, it's a great way to share your story and empower. Because some people think, well, I don't have a story. I just live a normal, ordinary life. But you never know how that one thing may change. And somebody listening on this podcast today, hearing your words may, and then all of a sudden the light goes on. And it's like, I don't have to be where I'm at. I don't have to be stuck here. I don't have to be in this situation, and as we go forward, and maybe that's what some people are listening to too, that they've had struggles with fertility, and as say where they are, they've always been told if you don't have kids young, it's too late by then, or well, the different scenarios, or if there's people that are trying to have kids that just can't for whatever reason. So I'll get you to go into a little bit more and maybe give your background story on kind of how the fertility visionary and the founder of Wanna Get Knocked Up kind of came about.
Sure, of course. Well, I was 42 when my last relationship started to show that it definitely wasn't going to.
It's not happening. Let's get out.
And I realized that I was at a crossroads. I had a decision to make. I had to either risk being childless or become a single mother by choice. And for me, I always wanted to have a child. So I was very committed to having a baby. And so I started that process. And I saw every natural practitioner you can think of that might affect fertility, like chiropractic, a naturopath, acupuncture, Mayan abdominal massage. I saw a shaman. Like I ended up on a spiritual journey I wasn't expecting at all.
No.
At all.
That's probably a story on its own.
Absolutely. And I'm a preacher's kid.
Yes.
So that woo-woo stuff was really not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. And so I started doing all of these wonderful things for myself and doing the artificial inseminations, and it still wasn't happening. And I felt incredibly, I felt like part of my purpose was to become a mother. So it was a big disconnect for me. How can I feel like this is a big part of my purpose? It's the only thing that I've always been certain of in my life, that I would be a mom. And I was a fur baby mom I still am. I have a dog behind me. If you're snoring, it's him.
Okay.
But I've always had dogs kind of to keep that maternal instinct in check. But I was very determined to have a baby, so it didn't make sense to me why it wasn't happening. I was doing everything right, everything for my body, and yet it still wasn't happening. I describe it as, and of course mine was medically done too, right? Because I was doing it on my own. I describe it as the medical professionals are amazing at getting the equipment working. So the reproductive system, they work miracles, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you have the alternative therapy practitioners who are amazing at getting the body functioning optimally. And then nobody deals with this, with the mindset and whatnot. So after 2 years of trying for myself and starting to lose hope, I upped my game and I committed to 2 rounds of IVF, 2 because I had 2 vials of sperm left, and at $700 a pop.
Exactly. You're going to make sure you're going to use it.
Exactly. And the second reason was that I was given a 6 or 7% chance of conceiving.
Wow.
It was really low. And so
and not even 50-50. It's like pretty much it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
By their rating, So
I was sort of starting to sweat. And the first round of IVF, I thought, for sure I'm pregnant. I saw 2 little embryos being transferred into my uterus. And I'm like, it's got to have worked now.
Yes.
And yet it didn't. I was like, oh, crap. And to be honest, it was harder to recover from that than the artificial insemination. Because in the artificial insemination, I don't even know if egg and sperm ever met.
Exactly. Yeah.
But with this, those 2 little embryos had to die.
I see.
That hurt. So then the second round came around, and by this point, I'm kind of like scraping myself off the floor. Like I'm like, okay, I'm showing up because I committed to it. But if I hadn't already committed and they weren't sort of calling me and telling me, okay, your appointment's this day,
you got to come. Yeah,
I might not have.
Yep.
That's how hard it was. And so I started the process for the second one. It was the day one of my second round of IVF. And I thought, I had this like light bulb moment. I realized I'm terrified of letting go of the 2-parent family. Terrified. That the fellow that I had been seeing before was kind of in and out of my life, and I was like hanging on to him for dear life because I thought he should be the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually was almost going to let my fear of letting go of that 2-parent family win over having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I had to shift my mindset and be all in the single parent family for it to actually work. I had to change the energy completely. And I did that in that moment. I said goodbye to him for good. Mm-hmm. And I was all in, and I was pregnant 2 weeks later for the very first time in my life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just
That's
like
amazing.
that.
But it really shows you how just some mental thoughts or your perspective, like you can self-sabotage so easily when you're like, why isn't this working? But you're creating your own blockage, right? And until you get over that, like you say, if they didn't keep calling you and you would have just said, well, I've lost 2, I'm done with this, I'm not going to worry about it, my percentage so low anyway. There's a lot of self-talk obviously that you can just Absolutely. And then you just keep going down that spiral. Yes. But at least you said I'm committed, and you just went, because what really do you have to lose?
Oh, absolutely.
But I think the big part is getting rid of what's no longer serves you. So even having that 2-parent family, which we're all used to, you have to have 2 parents, 2 kids, a dog, a white picket fence, like everything that's supposed to make a happy, normal family. But the paradigm has shifted, and it's so different now. And as I say, I'd rather have 1 strong, loving parent than 2 that are barely there.
Right. Can I share a little bit of crazy?
You sure can. Yeah.
This is awesome. So I got pregnant. I have a beautiful 5.5-year-old daughter named Sandy. Love her to death. And when she was about 2, I thought there are opportunities to reach out to other donor siblings. And I thought I'll reach out and see if there's anybody out there. Well, you're going to laugh at this. There are 105 of them that we know of. There's 104 in total. There's 1 on the way. And we had dinner with the sperm donor last night. So here, at one point, I was feeling a little bit sorry for my daughter because she was going to be an only child. And
that's right. You won't know who. Yep.
Boo-hoo. No, she's got 104 half siblings.
Yes.
So it's incredible. And we meet up with a lot of them. So we're getting to know them over time. It's quite like I went from making this decision for myself and really struggling. I had to overcome this whole, I had to let go of that 2-parent family in order to achieve this result. Yeah. And once I did, now it opened up so much more. Right? So it's really powerful.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. Like to think that like over 100 just kind of out there, but at least you making that choice, you gave, your daughter this life now that she may have never had, and the wonderful joys of having a child and going through the pains and going through the joys and the tears and the happiness and the, what I mean? And obviously too, because if she's like as she grows, there's going to be more stuff. There's going to be teen years. There's going to be all that kind of exciting stuff that when you were a kid with your parents, you tried to get away with.
Totally. I had 1 sibling who about my parents. Yes. She's got 104.
Exactly.
I know, it's incredible. So it's really fun.
So with your coaching and the want to get knocked up, is this something that, is it one of your core principles in there? Because I think with want to get knocked up, the organization that you have, I think mindset would be one of the major things in it that it's not enough that you can't get, but I think what it is like, not that you can't say is because they say, well, you just can't, but I think too with the mindset like yourself, as soon as you changed your mindset, things started changing, opening up, doing all that kind of stuff. So what in essence is want to get knocked up?
Okay. Well, mindset is huge, and I just want to touch on that for a minute. I've been doing research on subconscious versus conscious, And we like to think that we're running the show all the time in our conscious minds. Can be more wrong. They depending on whose research you look at, the subconscious is running the show between 95 and 99% of the time. And they've even done research and watched, monitored the brain and the subconscious, and then had you think about doing something. And your brain is actually processing it before you've had the thought. So you're actually starting to get the signals that, like, say, I'm going to get up and walk over there. Your brain has actually started to send the signals before you've actually thought, I'm going to get up and walk over there.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a chicken or egg thing. It's really the subconscious running the show. So the work that we do, if your subconscious isn't on board, even if your conscious is, but your subconscious is running the show 95 to 99% of the time, how likely do you think you're going to achieve it? Right. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, the same with the scenario you just presented, because because by the time you have that thought, I'm going to get up, your body just gets up. If your brain was running it, you're like, now I have to move my leg. Now I have to move the other leg. Now I have to put my arms on the thing. So you're not doing a step-by-step process in your mind. Your body just does it because it's ready. It's all ready to go, and I think there's whole, like, even running more so, as I say, your subconscious, but more the spiritual side and things like that of how the universe goes and how everything works and how everything, there's a divine plan and all that kind of stuff. It's probably something we could talk hours on, but it's been so amazing so far, and the information you have, and I know that a lot of people are going to be helped by this. As I say, sometimes these little things, and maybe the little point about the mindset, or somebody's like, so at 45, did you find it challenging at that time in your life to have a child, or you're so excited just to be able to conceive that you're like, the joy preceded the
I had a great pregnancy. I did call it my life of leisure because, of course, I was 45. So most days I could go to work, I could function, and I'd just come home and I wouldn't have an extra energy to, like, do anything at home other than rest.
Exactly.
I didn't necessarily need to sleep. Like, I wasn't necessarily mentally tired, but my body was. And I delivered at home. I had my baby at home.
Oh, wow.
Phenomenal.
So did you have a doula, or did you have...
I had a doula and 2 midwives. They give you a midwife for yourself and a midwife for the baby.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The midwife for the baby shows up when you're really close to actually...
ready to deliver.
Arriving, but it was incredible. And it's like this rite of passage for as a woman. It's like, wow, I actually got through that. There were 2 moments that I thought I wouldn't. And they, my team talked me through it. They were like, we know you can. So it was amazing. And being a mom, they're different things. Like, no, I don't have as much energy as I would have if I was 25. Absolutely not. But I also have probably more patience, more money. I've been home with my daughter, the majority of the time. I've been working from home, doing things. Whereas if I'd had her at 25, I would have been working all the time. Right? So it's just a different time in your life, but it's really magical. And to connect with other families who have their kids older too, it's really neat to just see how it's a more mindful time. Now, I know there are young people who are mindful and whatnot as well. So I don't want to claim that. That's not just ours. No. But certainly then a lot of younger parents, I've had the opportunity to be more mindful just because I'm in a different place. So
exactly.
It's really amazing. And if I can go back to the coaching a little bit. Okay. Yep. So mindset is huge, and that's where you have sort of the aha. And one of the things that I talk about is that we don't always know what we don't know. Like, even though I was going through the steps of becoming a single mother by choice, I didn't actually realize I was still fully attached to that 2-parent family. That was hiding from me, and I call that the blind spot. And we work on to clear those kinds of fears. But then there's also, I've done some research on the mindset of athletes. And there's a lot of research coming out of Johns Hopkins University into the mindset of athletes and Olympians. And if you think about it, so these people are working to perform at the highest level, the most elite level in the world, possibly ever. They can't have their grocery list pop into their mind while they're skiing down a hill in the Olympics, right? They spend a huge amount of time mastering their mindset.
Of course, you have to be so focused, and you have nothing that can pull you off that, off that vision, or if you're there to win, or if you're on the team. Exactly. So I'll let you continue. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they even talk about how they can't, their conscious system is actually too slow to make decisions as they're going down a hill, let's say, just using that example. So they're actually having to just use intuition and all of these other things that are helping them get down that hill. And there are even some people who talk about using an athlete's mindset to conquer cancer. So there's something to be said for the athlete's mindset. And it's really, if you think about it, say you want to run a marathon. Anybody can, well, not anybody, but a lot of people can run a marathon if they want to. No interest here whatsoever. But right?
Yeah, me either.
But if you make that decision, okay, the marathon's on this date. Now I need to figure out what I need to do to get to that date, right? I need to do some training. I probably need to get the right gear. Like, there are a bunch of steps. And this goes for so many things in life. You want a job, you want to become a doctor, whatever. You're going to figure out the steps that you need to do, and you're going to start putting them in place and taking them. And the same goes for having a baby. It's not just, okay, let's have a baby. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everyone. It's not just, I'm going to have a baby and we just start having sex and hope for the best. There are steps you can take. And I work really hard to empower people to play a more active role in this process. There are so many things that people can be doing for themselves that the medical doctors don't necessarily tell them about, because, as I said, they are like superheroes when it comes to the reproductive system. So that is their area of focus. So it's not to criticize them at all. They work miracles. I wouldn't have a baby if it weren't for them.
Yes.
But there's more to it. And there are lots of things that people can be doing, and there's so much information out there. It's even wading through it all. So things like, if you have more than 4 or 5 as a woman, if you have more than 4 or 5 alcoholic beverages a week, you decrease your chance of conceiving by 50%.
Oh, wow.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're 22 and you have more than 4 or 5 in a night, you might get pregnant. You probably increase your chance of getting pregnant, but just right, because you're not thinking straight. But it depends on where you're at. Like, a lot of my clients end up being sort of 35 to 45, and that's when you have to have more of a strategy. You have to be more careful. We work on stress management. We live in an incredibly stressful time. And we don't even realize how much is stress, right? Like, we think that it's not that stressful. We don't feel that stressful, but it's just that, as opposed to 100 years ago where, stress was down here, we're like operating up here as the constant, right? Exactly. So we work on stress management, and we work on a number of different strategies to change systems in your life and your lifestyle habits and all kinds of things, and your diet and things like that, in addition to do the mindset work.
Well, exactly. And I think diet too has a big, because of the stuff you eat a lot of crap in, crap out. And that's going to change your thought process. It's going to change your level of energy. It's going to change a lot of things that people don't think. I think we're constantly adapting and constantly coping as a mechanism, as a standard. I think, and like you said, people don't realize they're stressed, but they are, because they've been at that high level for so long, and eventually those mechanisms are going to break down, which I believe you probably help people with, or they don't realize, I've been just, taking everything out of me. And why not? I mean, I think we're here to have life, to enjoy it, to be fulfilled, to have that. It's not just about working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, you have, or work a second job, a third job, and to have a child, but with having a child too, there's lots of other things that come with it. Yes, there's also the joy, but there's also the financial responsibilities. There's also my kid can't date till they're 35.
Totally.
When
I
your
think we should
daughter
bring
now
back
will say, I
talking
have
about
5 boyfriends, you
it.
know,
Yes, exactly.
but it's so great when they're kids, because when they're kids, they like you or they don't, and they tell you up front, well, I don't
Totally.
like you anymore. Well, now I like you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think adults should adapt some of those things. And with kids too, they're free. I know my niece, she used to like spin while we're getting groceries. She would spin down the aisle. They're just free. They don't care. But as we get older, we don't do that anymore. We're not as fun. We're not enjoying life. We have to be serious because we're adults. And I
Mhm.
really believe there is a difference between being childish and childlike. But I think one thing is we shouldn't get rid of those childlike qualities as adults. We should still
No.
embrace, enjoy, you know, all the stuff there is. Wow, it's like, oh, our hour is like, it's
Already?
like
Oh
I
my
know
goodness.
it goes fast, but I know you had some products with you. So if you want to
Yeah.
kind of talk a little bit more, show some of the products that you have, and some of the delights for our listeners to kind of see, or at least hear and envision. Yeah.
Sure. I have a number of sort of hand and body
Hmm.
butters. And as I said before, I have the chocolates, and I also have lavender and au naturel, which just has the scents of the butters and oils in them.
Okay. Hmm.
And then I have another scent that I'm forgetting, mint and cinnamon.
Oh.
And they're wonderful, and they melt on your skin.
Hmm.
And you don't need very much. In fact, it was really cute. I had a young fellow who came to my booth
Hmm.
at the yoga and wellness show, and
Hmm.
he put a little bit on his hands, but it was a little bit too much. So
Okay.
he ended up covered in his hands. So he was rubbing it all over his face,
Oh.
on his chest,
Yeah.
into his hair. It was really
Yeah.
funny. And 2 women came and bought some because of watching him put it all
Putting
over.
it all over himself.
So that was really sweet. And
Yeah.
then I also have some face creams.
Hmm.
Our biggest seller is the frankincense face cream. And
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
yes.
Yeah.
Because frankincense is amazing for your skin, isn't it? Amazing
Yes.
for anti-aging properties and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's also got, it also can help it's good for brain health,
Oh,
memory and whatnot.
okay.
So I was thinking, I've actually had a couple of head injuries. So
Hmm.
I was thinking you put it on your face, you're breathing it,
Yeah.
it's a win-win. And I have 2 other scents in our face cream, which are au naturel again, just for people who don't want any added
Hmm.
scent, and citrus swirl. And
Hmm.
these are lovely, and they all have, all of a sudden I've forgotten the name, rosehip oil and
Hmm.
seed buckthorn oil, which are also
Oh,
great for like even coloring
okay.
and anti-aging, wrinkles,
Hmm.
all of that good stuff. And they're very popular. I'm in the process of developing one that will probably be more expensive
Hmm.
because it will have even more of
Yeah,
these,
more of the ingredients in it. Yeah.
yeah, and a new one that I'm playing, a
Hmm.
new ingredient that I'm playing around with,
Hmm.
and that'll be even more anti-aging
Hmm.
because that seems to be our big concern.
Yeah. So with your products, are they a cream base, or are they more solid and then they kind of melt as you put them into your hands?
I find that when I'm, of course, I used to be
Hmm.
own bakeries.
Yes.
When I'm putting it into the jars, it's like the consistency of buttercream icing. It's
Okay. Yes. Hmm. Yeah.
but once it's in there, some of them tend to just kind of set up. So they're a little
Okay.
bit, they're not hard, but they're
Hmm.
just a little bit firmer.
Firmer.
But as
Okay.
soon
Yeah.
as you put a little bit on your skin, it starts to melt.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
and it
Yeah.
just blends right in.
Yeah, so if somebody purchases it, they open it up, they know, and they're expecting to get a cream, and it's a little bit more firm,
It's a
they
little
know
bit
that
firm.
it's still okay. But as you say, you
Absolutely.
have the lavender for relaxation, you have the
Yeah.
natural for people that have sensitivities,
Right.
the cinnamon, which is like a warm
Yeah.
notes. It's also cinnamon is. I think you checked out your website, but it's like you have a tingling cinnamon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
got a little bit of
that tingling, but
it
cinnamon
doesn't
is
tingle
also.
your skin. It's more your senses.
Oh, tingle the senses. But cinnamon for men is an aphrodisiac.
You know what? I didn't
Just,
know
just
that.
FYI.
Oh, I'll start selling it to men.
Well, so no wonder that guy was putting it all over.
I love
It
it.
does hair, face, and body, so it's even like a pomade you can use.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
know,
I actually got
as
asked
well.
to
Yeah.
develop some products for hair.
Yeah, so
But
which is nice too, and say of the citrus. So citrus, a lot of times, citrus is good for lifting your mood, like
yes,
especially any kind of tangerines, orange,
yeah,
lemon are also good.
yes,
Grapefruit is usually great for weight loss. So there's a lot of different ones, and aromatherapy, you know, um, plays a big part. And rosehip is amazing. Buckhorn, I don't
buckthorn,
know
yeah,
as much,
yeah,
but you know, I mean,
that's
it's.
great.
I'm glad that I can find something that doesn't, because I'm super, super sensitive.
Right.
And I did test your products out. I saw you, so we met at.
Yeah,
So I'll give a shout out to Cindy Ashton. So Cindy Ashton had an event, Innovation on Cork. So if you don't know Cindy, definitely check her out. She has a television show called Cindy on Cork, her new one, Innovation on Cork, which you were interviewed for.
I
So
was. It's
can you
going
tell
to
me
air
a
in the
little
new
bit
year.
about the interview with Cindy and how that went?
For sure. Can I also work in that I have some mom and baby products as
You
well?
sure can.
Thank you. And belly balm, nipple
Yeah.
cream, because
Yeah.
nursing isn't always the easiest, and baby bum balm. So those are my three
Okay.
at the moment for mamas.
So are
Um,
those more for rashes? Are they more for, do you have something for stretch marks? Do you have
the belly
something
balm is
for,
for stretch marks.
okay.
And to be honest, when your skin's being stretched that much, it's
Hmm.
incredibly itchy. So
Okay.
it'll help with the discomfort.
So,
And then the nipple cream is just
mhm.
because babies don't always get it right when they first start
Okay.
latching.
So is
And
that
then
more for sensitivity then?
it's
The
actually,
cream?
nipples can become cracked and
Oh,
irritated
okay.
and
Oh,
incredibly dry and chapped and
okay.
sore.
Hmm.
So it's for that.
Oh,
So
perfect.
you can imagine, so
Hmm.
where does a nipple go in a baby's mouth?
Exactly.
So
Hmm.
it's got to be as pure as possible. And I
Yeah.
can't even have put essential oils in that because essential oils aren't good for newborn
No,
babies.
and especially if it's going into the skin, you want to
Right.
make sure that they don't. But with your belly balm, so
Yep.
could you use that even if somebody had stretch marks under their arms?
You
Because there's
could.
some people too that do weight loss, but they get stretch marks like under the arms, they get
Yep.
it on the belly, things like that. So it'd be nice to have something so it's not just for
Yeah,
females.
just for
Males
belly.
could use it
Yeah.
because I know with some clients that I have, some people that have had weight loss or they did a lot of bodybuilding, then they lost the weight or lost the bulk, then they had now these stretch marks
Yeah.
from you know the expansion of the skin.
Yeah.
So,
You
so it
certainly could
shows
use
that you have
them.
a multi-purpose kind of line, you know,
Absolutely.
as well. So
Yeah.
basically, yeah, if we can recap the kid stuff, because I have a good friend who just, you know, just had a kid, 4 months old. So
Awesome.
maybe that's something would
Yeah.
be a nice holiday
Oh,
gift
for sure. And the baby
for
bum
them.
balm is awesome because,
Yeah.
like, a lot of the baby products still have
Hmm.
petroleum in them. So
Yes.
this is like Vaseline, right?
Hmm.
So this is it actually creates a barrier between lovely skin of a baby's bottom
Hmm.
and the diaper and all the contents of the diaper. So
Yes.
and it will heal up any diaper
Oh,
rash.
perfect. Because
So
I
it's
think that's the biggest thing, and not everybody, I think, wants to powder their child with talcum and things
no,
like
they
that, which
shouldn't.
has a lot of toxins and carcinogens in it anyway, right? So I
Yes.
think with the balm, it would be much better. It's a lot
Yeah.
softer on the skin, especially if it does have those healing properties. It's kind of nice, and you're not putting toxins, because I think kids, like you said, they already have, what did you say? Did you say 200?
200
Yeah.
toxins when they're
200
born.
toxins already. Plus two, they have like baby shampoos and all that kind of stuff that all have carcinogenic ingredients in them.
Oh,
They say safe for the eyes, but what they do is they pH it to the eyes, but not to everything else. And
right.
it ends up, you know, harming everything else. And as I say, there's
Oh,
lots of stuff, you know, in that, but it's nice to have clean, chemical free alternative
right.
that people can go to. So if someone wanted to find it, where would they go to shop
Liberty,
online?
libertyskincare.com.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah,
that's simple, easy. They
absolutely.
can order. Do you ship globally or do you ship certain areas or?
I can ship globally. Sure.
Okay, so if
Yeah,
somebody contacts you, they purchase,
for sure.
and your site is in Canadian funds?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then they would pay in Canadian funds. You would do the shipping for them. You would send it out, and they
Yeah,
would get it, you know, as fast as the delivery can take.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the comment about Cindy's event. I'd be
No,
happy.
no. So Cindy, if you're listening,
Yes.
I'll give you
Sorry,
a shout out
Cindy.
now. Yeah.
We
So
love you.
Cindy Ashton is amazing. She's an
Yeah.
amazing actor. She's an amazing speaker. As I say, she has her own television show, Cindy Uncorked, her new show, Innovation Uncorked, which I think, what was it, 190 million people your interview was going out to. So when
Yes.
she was doing that, if you are a speaker, as I say, this isn't really a plug for Cindy, but I know Cindy and you know Cindy personally, but check out Speaker Stardom. So it's her own agency. And she really, if you are a speaker or need coaching as a speaker, Cindy is the one to go to. Plus, if you catch her CD, I play it in my car all the time. I have a background as an actor, so of course I know all the the show tunes and all that kind of stuff, and say health and wellness, because I had my own wellness spa. So it's amazing how people kind of all connect together. So what would be your next, before we close, what is your next event coming up? So the next immediate event that you're speaking at?
The Feel Good Women's Show. I have 3 different events this weekend. The Feel
Oh,
Good
really?
Women's
Yeah. So if you can, do you have the locations or the dates, or we can also post them under the video as well?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give them to you now, or just give them to you and you can post them under the video?
Yeah, so if you just say it now, we'll do both. So we'll have it online so people can listen to it, and we'll also post it underneath, so before this airs, at least people have a chance to kind of catch you where you're speaking at.
Well, this Friday I have the Feel Good Women's Show, and I'll have to provide you with the location because I can't remember.
Yeah, that's no problem.
And then I'm actually going to, and this will be really interesting, I'm going to the Southbrook Retirement Community.
Oh, really? I've been there.
Have you?
I have, actually. I have. Yeah. I don't stay there, but I've been there.
Well, I think it should be really interesting to I'm taking my products to them to see if they like them too. Because of course I get a certain demographic who try them and whatnot. So it's a little bit of an experiment these days. And then on Sunday I'm doing the market, which is like an artisan event in Toronto. So
perfect.
Yeah, and it's at 192 Spadina. So, but I'll share those with you. And
then we'll list everything underneath with all your links everywhere where people can go. Any of your social media handles, will have all that done as well. So one thing I do like to ask my guests in closing, because it is an empowerment podcast, what would be your words of empowerment for our audience?
Oh, wow. It's really about standing in your power and taking action. I think we spend a lot of time thinking about things and not moving forward. And I love the saying, fail fast. So you get in there, take action, and if you're going to fail, that's okay, because then you get to move on to the next one, which could be the success. So really just keep moving forward, as opposed to, I think the way our society is set up, we can be really stuck for a really long time, show up to that 9-to-5 job and, day in, day out, and plan for the trip that maybe will happen, in 5 years, but then 5 years comes and goes. Like, I think just take action and be in your power.
And that's amazing words of wisdom. Exactly. Get off that hamster wheel going around and around and around, because any vision of the future, unless you get off that wheel, there's no way that you can kind of look forward. So I'd like to say thank you, Cassandra, for being on the Hairstylist Empowerment podcast. I want to say thank you, everyone listening today. And hopefully we can have Cassandra back and do a Facebook Live if she has the time. I know she's a very busy person, so but it's nice to interact live. So basically, you're listening to the audio now. We're starting something new on Mondays, where we're going to do premiere video on YouTube, where you can come. We go through the whole entire interview that we just saw, but we'll be on, and you can type in your comments, you can connect, you can do that, and we'll have the dates and time right under. So I want to say thank you. I'm your host, Brad Poirier of the Hairstylist Empowerment Podcast, and we'll see you next time.